There's been a major break in a 42-year-old cold case. A suspect finally under arrest in the deaths of two young women.
Two women who lived in Oxnard, California and had never known each other shared a tragic fate. Both of them were brutally murdered in a similar way in 1981. However, was this an act committed by two different suspects? Or was this crime committed by someone they both knew? Hi friends, and welcome back to Mysterious Hook. Today, we are looking at two 42-year-old cold cases that were solved by a DNA match in 2023. But first, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please consider clicking the subscribe button as it helps us to create more intriguing content for you. So without further ado, let's dive right into this mystery. Today's case takes us to the beautiful coastline of Oxnard, California. It is a place filled with beautiful sunsets and a plethora of opportunities for young adults. It has many notable landmarks, like the Central Carnegie Art Museum, which displays contemporary California art. Although many people find this place to be truly breathtaking, it was also the site of one of the most heinous crimes committed during the 1980s, which cut short the lives of two vibrant young women. This is Rachel Zendejas, who was born on 20 November 1960. She had an older brother named Roy Rodriguez. Though we don't have much information about their background in early life, we do know that Roy was already settled by the time Rachel began to support herself financially. Rachel got married and became a mom of two young girls while she was still in her teens. Her first daughter, Eva, was born in 1978, and her next daughter, Monica, was born in 1980. However, things weren't going well with her husband. So, at the age of 20 in 1980, she decided to leave him. However, Rachel wasn't well off financially, which also meant that with the divorce, she would have to start working and supporting herself and her two daughters. By 1981, a year after the birth of her youngest daughter, she was finally free from her toxic marriage. However, instead of simply working odd jobs and struggling to get by, she aspired to have a degree. And since she hadn't been able to complete her studies because of her marriage and children, Rachel thought that she would finally take this opportunity to continue her studies. She enrolled at Oxnard College in California. While she got back on her feet, she moved in with her brother in Camarillo, and he helped her get her family together and get back on her feet. Being a full-time student, working shifts at a part-time job, and being a full-time mom, things were difficult for Rachel. She was finding it difficult to split her time and attention between all these things, so she decided to hire multiple babysitters for her two kids while she was out at work or college. During the day, she would go to college, then work her shifts, and then she would return home in the evening. Her babysitters would only make their way home when she arrived. If it was too late, Rachel would often drop them off at their homes herself. This was Rachel's routine until the fateful event that would change the lives of those around her. On January 18, 1981, two newspaper delivery boys stumbled onto Rachel's naked body in a carport in Camarillo, near her brother's apartment complex where she was living. She had never returned home the night before after dropping the babysitters back home. When the newspaper boys saw the body, they quickly called 911 and reported the matter. When the police arrived at the crime scene, an immediate investigation was launched. Rachel's body seemed to have bruise marks over her neck and shoulders. Her body was also found completely bare. When the investigators conducted an autopsy, they found that Rachel had been strangled to death. She had also been forcefully assaulted prior to her murder. The gravity of the crime was heavy, which made the police want to find the killer as soon as possible. They theorized that Rachel had been ambushed outside her brother's Camarillo home. She was then assaulted on the patio of a nearby vacant apartment and then strangled and died of asphyxiation. The police conducted detailed interviews with neighbors and others who lived in the vicinity, hoping to find out if anyone had seen or heard anything the night before. According to her neighbors and her brother, Rachel had gone to drop off the babysitters like she did most days after returning from work. However, on that day, something bad happened when she got out of her vehicle after returning home. The crime scene was crucial in helping the police gather evidence. There were sperm traces and fingerprints all over her naked body. However, at the time, DNA evidence couldn't be used to identify suspects in the system. It could only be used to match against a suspect who had already been identified. The police looked into a number of other leads and even tried retracing her steps that night, but they found nothing. Eventually, the case went cold. The second woman involved in this story is Lisa Gondek, who was also born in 1960 on the 9th of November. She lived in Connecticut throughout her childhood and teenage years. However, when she turned 21, she decided to move out and find a job to support herself. Though there is not much information about Lisa's background available, we do know that she never married and did not have any children. In 1981, Lisa moved to California from her hometown in Connecticut. When Lisa got to Oxnard, she moved in with her childhood best friend and was living with her. Being a humble and easygoing person, Lisa never found it hard to make friends. Due to her friendly nature, it was easy for her to get a job. Within a few days of her moving to another state, Lisa managed to find work at a teen clothing store in the Esplanade Shopping Center in Oxnard. She then went on to work there for almost a year. However, little did she know that her life would soon come to a tragic end. On December 12, 1981, a 911 call sparked the attention of the police in Oxnard. The call reported a fire at an Oxnard apartment. When the firefighters arrived, they did their best to control the damage. However, they were shocked to find a dead, naked woman in the bathtub. Upon seeing this, the firefighters immediately notified the police for assistance. When the police arrived, they identified the victim as none other than Lisa Gondek. She was 21 when she died. An autopsy conducted after securing crucial DNA evidence from the crime scene confirmed that Lisa had been forcefully assaulted before she was killed. There were strangulation marks around her neck similar to the ones found on Rachel's body. Whoever committed the crime had killed her and then set the apartment on fire to cover their tracks. But who could have made that 911 call? Well, a further investigation revealed that Lisa's neighbors had heard screams. However, they didn't call 911 until they smelled smoke coming from her apartment. Right before she was murdered, Lisa had just informed her mother that she would be home for Christmas. Sadly, she would now never be able to make it. With 2 murders having been committed within a year in Oxnard, the police were under pressure to catch the culprits behind either of these murders. However, it was difficult to crack the case. The investigators in the murder of Lisa found that there were no probable suspects on the list of people they had interrogated, and with no further leads to follow, they eventually had to give up on the case, and just like Rachel's case before it, it too went cold. In 2004, 23 years after the murders of Lisa and Rachel, advancements in DNA technology had now made solving cold cases easier, since all that was needed to be done was to enter the DNA evidence into the national systems and wait for the results to show. The Oxnard police and investigators who were handling these 2 cases wanted to take this opportunity to solve the cases, since they had crucial evidence that had been collected from both of the crime scenes. When they re-examined the files from both cases, they began to notice the similarities between the 2 murders. The first were the marks found on their bodies. Both Rachel and Lisa had strikingly similar marks, and both of them were forcefully assaulted and strangled. The second similarity was that both victims had visited a pub named Huntington's in the hours before their deaths. Though the pub is now closed, it was a hotspot that was just across from the Esplanade Mall where Lisa had worked. On uploading the DNA evidence found in both crime scenes, there were no matches in the system at the time, but the DNA matched the sample from the other case. This is when the police realized that the similarities between Rachel's and Lisa's death were because both of them had been killed by the same person. This meant that the crimes committed against Lisa and Rachel were committed by the same suspect who was still on the loose. However, there was a downside to this. No one matched the suspect profile the police were searching for. There was no information on the suspect in the national systems, which eventually made the case turn cold once again. Almost 4 decades later, the murders of Lisa and Rachel still remain unsolved. Though the police found out that the suspect they were looking for was one person and not two, they couldn't proceed any further in solving this case. Rachel's brother, Roy Rodriguez, regularly called the police and asked for updates on his sister's murder case. And why shouldn't he? Rachel was taken too soon, leaving behind her 2 young daughters who were orphaned at the tender ages of 2 and 1. In order to try and find a match, the detectives and police officers working on this double homicide cold case decided to team up and work with genetic genealogists in 2019. The hunt for the suspect led to the cold cases being opened again as active investigations. This time, the investigators reviewed user-submitted DNA profiles that were made publicly available. This, they thought, was a great start, as it would provide them with enough information to learn more about their genealogy and perhaps even trace the suspect through their family tree. As the team worked together, they managed to finally narrow down their search to one person. This person also matched the evidence at the crime scene in 1981. His name was identified as Tony Garcia, and he was now a 68-year-old man. Tony Garcia was born in 1955. His birthplace was in the state of New Mexico. When he grew older, he joined the Navy. After completing his services with the Navy, Tony then found work as a karate instructor in Oxnard, California. When the Ventura County Police then tracked his age and his whereabouts in 1981, they found that Tony was 26 years old at the time and would often visit Huntington's. It was there that he noticed Rachel and stalked her. He then showed up unannounced on January 18, 1981, and ended her life. Lisa Gondek also used to frequent the same pub after Rachel was murdered, and this led to her death almost 11 months later. After these revelations, further background checks done on Tony revealed that he worked as a carpenter after the killings in 1981. What was even more astonishing was that Tony was actually in the same town the whole time. Once he had settled in Oxnard, he continued to live there even after committing these heinous crimes. All the time that the investigation into Rachel's and Lisa's murders was ongoing, he managed to remain hidden in plain sight. However, why hadn't the Ventura police found him suspicious? Well, no one knew it was him until 2019, when DNA evidence gathered from the crime scene revealed his identity. Despite learning that it was Tony behind the murders in 2019, he managed to evade arrest for another 4 years. No one could find him. It was only quite recently, in February 2023, that Ventura County law enforcement arrested and charged Garcia for 2 counts of murder with special allegations. These charges included multiple killings, kidnapping, and forcible sexual assault. However, the district attorney's office could not decide whether to seek the death penalty or life in prison without parole. The 68-year-old was booked, and bail was set at $2 million bond. In February 2023, Eric Nazarenko, the Ventura County District Attorney, gave a statement on the case. After more than 4 decades, justice is finally coming to the families of Rachel Zendejas and Lisa Gondek. Thankfully, Ventura County Police never gave up on solving the murder of these 2 young souls, Lisa and Rachel. All we know for now is that Tony is held at Ventura County Main Jail while police search more information from the public, including any possible links to other crimes. What did you think about the solving of these cold cases of Rachel Zendejas and Lisa Gondek? Do you think justice was served? Let us know what you think in the comments section below. If you like our content, please like and subscribe to our channel. Press the bell icon to always stay notified whenever we upload a new video. Thanks for watching.